Hello, year seven. So, Mr. Lodge here, we're just going to go through this test. Feel free to fast forward to the question that you have got wrong, and then you can make your corrections quickly by doing it that way. So, we don't have to go through the whole video. First one, plant cell and animal cell. So, these are the structures we were looking for: nucleus, cytoplasm, cell membrane, cell wall, vacuole, chloroplasts, and mitochondria. So, I didn't allow chlorophyll because that's the pigment inside the chloroplast. So here we go. And then the animal cell was nucleus, cytoplasm, cell membrane, and mitochondria. Always read the question, make sure you're putting the right cell in the right place. So here was nucleus. Also try to make sure your label arrows, not with an arrow like that, but just touching the line, touching the structure you want to label. So that's cell wall, cell membrane, cell surface membrane was okay. This particular structure I labelled as mitochondria, chloroplast, vacuole, and then the cytoplasm, jelly-like stuff where all chemical reactions take place, or the metabolism takes place. So the same with the animal cell. This is the animal cell here. Looks a bit like a fried egg with some peppercorns on it. But when we label it, we go cell membrane, nucleus controls the cell, stores DNA, cytoplasm, and then mitochondria again, found in both plant and animal cells, the site of respiration, aerobic respiration. Look at the diagram. What process is happening at X? So at X we have the egg cell, that's the egg cell there. Yeah. And here we have the sperm, tiny little sperm cell, fusing together. That process is fertilization. The sperm and the egg fuse together to form one cell, the zygote. What process is happening at Y? So Y is actually a little embryo implanting into the lining of the uterus. What is immediately formed after the process of fertilization? So it is one cell, a fertilized egg cell, and we call it a zygote. The embryo, a lot of people are putting embryo, that's just a little bit later on, not immediately after fertilization. So after fertilization, we have one cell from the sperm and the egg cell joining together to form the zygote. Okay, and then later on, that forms a bigger cell, bigger lump of cells that we call the embryo. Okay. Name a substance containing an acid. A lot of people got this one right, so lemon juice was well done. The alkali, a lot of people are putting salt water now. Salt water is not an alkali. It's just water with salt in it. It doesn't have a different pH, so oven cleaner was the right answer there. Yep, poisonous or toxic was accepted here, and explosive for that one. Those were pretty well done, so everyone seemed to remember that. Colour of litmus. Litmus is can be in solution, but we have litmus paper, red litmus paper and blue litmus paper. Now blue turns red in an acid and red turns blue in an alkali. Okay. The answers for this one, methyl orange, is just a different indicator, right? So in this indicator, it goes pink in an acid, yellow in alkali, orange in neutral, and Therefore, in a sodium hydroxide is an alkali. Okay, so it goes yellow. Salt water is neutral. So neutral is orange. Yeah. Vinegar is, you got it, acidic. So that would go pink, yellow, orange, pink in that order. Okay, so this is very much like the investigation we did in class. Student investigates the temperature rise when different acids react with sodium hydroxide solutions. So she measures out 10 centimeters cubed of sodium hydroxide and records the temperature. 10 centimeter cubed of an acid into the sodium hydroxide and records the new temperature. Calculates the temperature rise, repeats the experiment with the same volume of sodium hydroxide, but adds different types of acid. So she also would have added the same volume of acid here, but just a different type. So let's have a look at the questions. What has been kept the same in this experiment? The volume of sodium hydroxide. Now, I kind of want you to get, a lot of people are putting amount. Yep, I don't want to see that word at all. At all. When we're talking about liquids or gases, maybe we always talk about the specific volume of that particular liquid or gas, or maybe if it's a solid, we talk about the mass of that particular solid that we're using, not amount. Okay, I did allow amount of time later on, but not for this question. So it was volume of sodium hydroxide, also volume of acid. Okay, that would have been kept the same as well. The variable that's been changed, the independent variable, so if we look here, we are changing the types of the acid. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 types of acid, so it was the type of acid that was being changed. The one that's being measured is the temperature rise. So she calculates the temperature rise. And what's the name of the reaction? Neutralization. A lot of people got these right, so that's really good. I want to know the products of a neutralization reaction then. Salt and water. So if we're acid plus alkali goes to salt plus water. That's base as well, could be base too. All right, now actually it gave you this equation here, right? Hydrochloric acid reacts with calcium oxide to make calcium chloride and water. Write the word equation. Simple as that, no tricks there. It was just saying, can you write that as an equation? So we needed that arrow in the middle, and we needed the correct names in the correct places on either side of the equation. Okay. Here we go. There's the investigation on fuels again. So remember, we put the water inside the boiling tube with the thermometer to measure the temperature, and we burnt the fuel for a set amount of time and measured the temperature change, and to see which fuel was the richest or contained the biggest store of energy, store of chemical energy, or was the densest energy store. What was the student investigating? Well, we were trying to see which fuel makes water the hottest. 2 variables she had to keep the same, so this is planning again, so it's the volume of water, not amount, for a correct mark. Same time of heating. Also things like, I suppose, distance of fuel from boiling tube, or wick from the boiling tube would be acceptable as well. Okay, so this is in the wrong place. Sorry, this is 11.2. So what we had to do here is just see exactly what the temperature rise is per gram of fuel. So degrees centigrade per gram of fuel. So we had degrees centigrade divided by mass. So we had a 10 degrees centigrade change, and we had a 0.9 gram mass of fuel burnt. So if you actually did that on your calculator, you would get 11.2. Let me just double check. I think 10 divided by 0.9 equals, it's 11.1 recurring. Okay. Same for this one. The temperature rise was 11.5. We had more mass though. So 11.5 divided by 1.6 equals, just check that, 11.5 divided by 1.6 equals 7.2 or 7.18. Okay. All right, so if the student's teacher calculates the energy stored is enough to raise the water by much more than 10 degrees, so actually someone else got different results, why did the student not get a bigger temperature rise? So essentially, any of these reasons would be correct. Some energy is wasted as light, minimal really. Some heat energy is lost to surroundings. That could be for a variety of reasons. The wick lengths were different. The distance was changed between the flame and the boiling tube. Air movement or wind caused the flame to move, so it wasn't heating the boiling tube directly. A lot of students put errors with thermometer and measurements, which I accepted. Okay. Things like taking the thermometer out of the boiling tube a bit too early, things like that. So errors that in measurement would have been accepted as well. So when you make a conclusion, we have to especially if we can see it's 3 marks here, right? So we need a point, we need evidence for it, and we need to explain. So conclusion is, look at the data here. What's the results we got? What can we tell from that data? So from this data, we can tell paraffin contains more energy. Paraffin makes the temperature rise more than ethanol does. So paraffin contains more chemical energy than ethanol, or paraffin raises the temperature more than ethanol does. Then I want you to quote the data. So tell me the data that you got from your table above. Had to have actually quoted the data to get that point. And then refer to the chemical energy in fuels. So if you said paraffin has more chemical energy stored or has a higher density of energy, then that is absolutely fine.